For 2 decades, Doug and Jackie Christie had been Hollywood's symbol of loyalty. The couple that renewed their vows every year. The couple that swore they were unbreakable. The couple who turned marriage into a performance of devotion. But now, the whispers said otherwise. What if that perfect love story was never real? What if the marriage the world thought was solid was nothing more than paper and lies? Someone close to the family had already leaked the first clue. A document, a certificate that didn't quite match. The signatures, the dates, the stamps, something about it didn't add up. And now, the courtroom was about to decide whether Jackie had ever truly been Doug's wife at all. As Jackie clutched her handbag, her fingers trembled. Behind her dark glasses, she tried to hide the tears threatening to spill. Doug sat only a few feet away, his hands clasped, his head lowered. And yet, he said nothing. The betrayal wasn't just about love, it wasn't just about vows. It was about image. It was about a family legacy built on the idea of loyalty. And now that legacy was collapsing, publicly, brutally, and live for the world to consume, one reporter muttered under her breath. If this marriage was fake, then everything we thought we knew about them was a lie. Jackie turned her head sharply, as if she had heard. Her jaw tightened, her body stiffened, and in that moment, it was clear. This was not just a scandal. This was the unraveling of a dynasty. But the whispers weren't done, because the documents were only the beginning. What came next would shatter the Christie family forever. Suddenly, the whispers about Doug and Jackie Christie's perfect marriage exploded into a full-blown firestorm. The document was supposed to be the proof of their everlasting bond, the paper that bound them in the eyes of the law. But something was off. The date didn't line up with their famously televised vow renewal. The county clerk's stamp looked suspiciously faded, and the signature at the bottom, it didn't match Doug's handwriting from other legal documents. Within hours, bloggers were dissecting the image pixel by pixel. YouTubers paused and zoomed, comparing fonts and ink smudges. One viral post read, "Jackie's entire brand was built on love, and now the receipts show it might have been built on lies." Twitter erupted. The hashtags #FakeVows and Christie lied trended for 48 straight hours. Memes mocked their annual vow renewals. Clips from Basketball Wives were re-edited with captions like "Performance of the Century." And yet, no one from the Christie family spoke. Not Doug, not Jackie, not even their usually outspoken daughter. The silence only added fuel to the fire. "Silence is guilt," one fan tweeted, racking up over 100,000 likes. Courtroom insiders confirmed that the leaked document was now part of a legal filing. If proven true, it could mean Jackie and Doug were never legally married. Not in the state of California. Not anywhere. Inside the courthouse, murmurs grew louder. One attorney, speaking off the record, revealed, "There are inconsistencies that can't be explained away. At best, this was sloppy paperwork. At worst, this was intentional deception." For 2 decades, Jackie and Doug had built their empire around one image, the loyal couple. The husband who skipped games to be with his wife. The wife who turned her marriage into a television storyline. They weren't just spouses. They were a brand, but now that brand was cracking in real time. Tabloids splashed the headline across their front pages. "The Christie's marriage. Fake?" Talk shows debated whether the couple owed fans an explanation. And late-night comedians turned their love story into a punchline. Jackie, who once prided herself on controlling her own narrative, had lost control completely. She was no longer the one holding the microphone. She was the one being cross-examined in the court of public opinion. For fans who grew up watching their vow renewals, the betrayal felt personal. One woman said through tears in a viral TikTok, "They gave us hope." If even Jackie and Doug were fake, then what chance do the rest of us have? The world was no longer asking whether the Christies' love was strong. The question had shifted into something far darker. Was the entire 20-year marriage nothing more than a reality TV performance? And while the internet spiraled with theories and memes, Jackie prepared to walk into the one place she couldn't control the cameras, the courtroom. Because if the papers didn't lie, then Jackie Christie's entire empire was about to collapse. Not on television, but under oath. According to someone close to the family, Jackie's daughter was the very first person to confront her with the rumors. Not a lawyer, not a blogger, her own child. The confrontation wasn't gentle, it wasn't whispered. It was raw, explosive, and recorded. Within days, a leaked phone call hit the internet. You could hear Jackie's voice cracking with rage. She screamed over and over, denying the allegations, calling it a smear campaign. But in the background, you could hear something far more telling: Doug's silence. Not once in the recording did he step in. Not once did he defend her. The man who had spent 20 years holding her hand on camera now stood in the background, saying nothing, while his wife fought for her reputation alone. The audio spread like wildfire. Clips were played on gossip podcasts, dissected frame by frame on YouTube. Commentators pointed out every pause, every shaky breath, every moment where Jackie's screams gave way to sobs. One blogger described it perfectly. It didn't sound like a woman defending her marriage. It sounded like a woman defending her image, and that became the turning point. Old family wounds began to resurface. The daughters who had once accused Jackie of choosing fame over family suddenly reappeared in headlines. Past interviews were dug up, clips where they accused their mother of being obsessed with appearances and living for cameras. The public began to connect the dots. Had Jackie built her entire life on performance? Had she staged the perfect fairy tale marriage to cover the cracks in her family bond? On social media, the narrative was brutal. Jackie Christie isn't a wife? One viral post read, "She's a director, and her whole life is the movie." Memes portrayed her as the mother who couldn't separate love from spotlight. Comment sections overflowed with sympathy for her children. Kids who had grown up watching their parents reenact vows on television, only to now discover those vows might never have been real in the first place. For Jackie, it was more than just a PR nightmare. It was a personal implosion, because the one thing she prided herself on, the one thing she had used to silence critics over the years, was the story of her family, and now, her own daughter's voice had become the weapon used against her. Inside the Christie household, sources say Jackie barely left her room for days. She shut out calls, ignored texts, and demanded Doug fix it. But once again, Doug said nothing. Fans who had once celebrated them now questioned everything. Was Jackie the fierce mother who protected her children? Or was she the mother who used them as props in her reality show? The court of public opinion didn't hesitate to deliver a verdict. To them, Jackie Christie wasn't just the wife with a fake marriage. She was the mother who had staged her own fairy tale. And the cruelest part? This was only the beginning. Because once the family fractures spilled out into the open, the courtroom was waiting, ready to drag those private screams into public record. The moment Jackie Christie walked into the courtroom, the entire room shifted. Reporters stopped mid-sentence. Paparazzi lenses turned like vultures. And Jackie, dressed in all black with oversized sunglasses shielding her eyes, clutched Doug's arm so tightly it looked like she was holding onto the last piece of her reality. But there was something different about Doug. His body leaned away. His face was blank, unreadable. And though Jackie demanded he walk beside her as a show of loyalty, Doug never once reached for her hand. Inside, the tension was suffocating. Every seat was filled. Every breath seemed loud. Even the judge's gavel couldn't silence the whispers of disbelief that rippled through the gallery. The issue on the table was clear. Was the Christie marriage real in the eyes of the law? Or was it nothing more than a performance? Jackie's lawyer argued passionately that the marriage was spiritually binding. He spoke of love, commitment, and two souls joined before God. He framed Jackie and Doug's 20 years of vow renewals as proof that their union transcended paper. But Doug's side, cold, clinical, and armed with documents, painted a very different picture. They pointed to missing signatures, clerical inconsistencies, and the absence of a valid license. Love may bind hearts, one attorney declared, but the law binds contracts. And in the eyes of the law, there was no marriage. Jackie's chest rose and fell as if every word sliced into her skin. Her hands trembled on the table. Her lips quivered. And when Doug refused to look at her, something inside her broke. Mid-hearing, Jackie erupted. Her voice cracked as she turned to Doug, shouting, "Say something! Tell them I'm your wife. Tell them this is real." The entire courtroom froze. Some gasped. Others shook their heads. And Doug remained silent. For a moment, Jackie could barely breathe. Tears spilled down her cheeks as she accused Doug of betrayal. Not just of her, but of everything they had built together. Her sobs echoed through the chamber, raw and uncontrollable. The judge, stern and unflinching, ordered order in the room. But the damage was already done. Jackie's breakdown was etched into every reporter's notepad, every courtroom sketch, every flashing paparazzi bulb waiting outside. When the hearing recessed, Jackie collapsed into a chair in the hallway, covering her face. Doug stood a few steps away, arms folded, refusing to meet her gaze. And that image, the broken wife and the silent husband, went viral within hours. Clips of Jackie's courtroom outburst flooded TikTok. Fans replayed her cries, some sympathizing, others mocking. She looked like a woman begging for love that was never hers to begin with, one commentator posted. Outside the courthouse, the frenzy was uncontainable. Flashes blinded Jackie as she left the building. Microphones shoved toward her face. "Jackie, were you ever legally married? Doug, is it true you faked the marriage?" But Doug never spoke. Not a word. Not a glance. Nothing. And that silence, that unshakable, chilling silence, became louder than any scream Jackie could muster. Because if he had nothing to hide, why wasn't he defending her? The world was left to wonder, was Doug protecting himself, or was he quietly confirming that Jackie had never been his wife at all? And as Jackie's tear-streaked face appeared on every headline, one thing became clear. The real trial wasn't in the courtroom, it was in the court of public opinion, and that trial was only just beginning. After Jackie's public breakdown in court, everyone turned their eyes to Doug. The world wanted answers. The press wanted quotes. The fans wanted reassurance, but Doug gave them nothing. Day after day, reporters swarmed him outside the courthouse. "Doug, were you ever legally married to Jackie? Doug, did you fake the papers? Doug, are you hiding something?" And every single time he walked straight past the microphones without a glance. His head down, his hands stuffed in his pockets. Not even a shake of the head. One viral clip captured him perfectly. Doug walking silently to his car, ignoring the chaos around him, sliding into the back seat, and shutting the door without a word. That clip was viewed over 12 million times in just 24 hours. The caption, "This silence says everything." Fans were split. Some defended him, saying his silence was loyalty, that he refused to entertain gossip or humiliate his wife further. Others saw it as a calculated move. "He's not silent because he's noble," one fan tweeted. "He's silent because he's guilty." The debate raged across social media. YouTube panels dissected his body language frame by frame. TikToks compared his silence to famous celebrity scandals of the past. Reddit threads filled with speculation that Doug was hiding a secret so big, even Jackie couldn't say it aloud. But Doug's silence wasn't new. This was a pattern. For years, fans had noticed how Jackie dominated every interview, every press moment, every vow renewal. Doug stood beside her, quiet, nodding, never contradicting her words. Back then, people called it devotion. But now, those same clips resurfaced, and people started calling it manipulation. Was Doug ever really loyal, a blogger asked? Or was he just letting Jackie do all the talking, while he hid in the shadows? The silence that once looked like love now looked like strategy. A strategy that allowed Jackie to bear the weight, while Doug slipped through untouched. Inside the Christie circle, sources whispered that Jackie begged him to speak out. She pleaded for him to defend her, to declare publicly that she was his wife. But Doug refused. He told her, "Talking will only make it worse." And that refusal shattered her even more than the rumors. Because to Jackie, silence wasn't protection. Silence was abandonment. Meanwhile, the media feasted. One outlet headlined, "Doug's silence speaks volumes." Another plastered his blank expression on a cover, calling him the man without words, the husband without vows. Fans who once admired their yearly vow renewals now mocked the irony. How do you renew vows that never existed? One comment read, racking up over 50,000 likes. Doug had spent decades saying little, but now his refusal to speak was louder than any vow he'd ever taken. And as the silence dragged on, so did the questions. Was he shielding Jackie from more humiliation? Or was he quietly protecting himself from the truth that was about to come out? Because if Doug Christie had nothing to hide, why did his silence feel like a confession? And the answer, hidden behind that silence, was about to push Jackie to the breaking point. Late one night, Jackie went live on Instagram. Her eyes red, her hair undone, her voice trembling. Tears streamed down her face as thousands of fans flooded into the live stream, watching in real time as the queen of basketball wives unraveled. "I don't care what that courthouse says," she sobbed, clutching at her chest. "My marriage is real in God's eyes. Nobody can take that away from me. Not the judge, not the haters, not even Doug." The comments exploded. Some begged her to log off and protect her dignity. Others egged her on, demanding the truth. Within minutes, screen recordings were everywhere. Clips of Jackie's shaking voice hit Twitter timelines like wildfire. On TikTok, her sobs were remixed into trending sounds. One user layered her crying over a beat, and the clip racked up 1 million views in hours. Others stitched her meltdown with old basketball wives footage, turning her pain into memes. But not everyone mocked her. Some fans defended her vulnerability, writing, "For the first time, Jackie isn't the villain. She's the victim. She gave her whole life to that man, and now look at her, broken." As the live stream dragged on, Jackie's emotions swung wildly. One moment she begged for compassion. The next, she lashed out with fury. She accused fake friends of leaking documents. She called out family traitors who, in her words, sold me out for clout. And then she turned her rage toward Doug. "You let them laugh at me," she cried into the camera. "You sit there in silence while they tear me apart. You're supposed to be my husband. My husband! But where are you?" It was a heartbreaking unraveling. A woman who once terrified castmates with her sharp tongue, now left defenseless against the weight of betrayal. The Jackie Christie who once strutted through Basketball Wives reunions like an untouchable queen was gone. In her place stood a woman begging for validation, clinging to a marriage the world now doubted had ever truly existed, and the world noticed. Blogs ran headlines like, "Jackie Christie breaks down on IG Live, a queen no more." Podcasts replayed her words with dramatic music, dissecting every tear, every pause, every accusation. Even her castmates couldn't resist chiming in. Some offered sympathy, others threw shade. The same women she once battled on screen now watched her pain like it was another season of reality TV. Except this time, there were no cameras, no edits, no producers. Just raw heartbreak. By the end of the live stream, Jackie was nearly incoherent. Her mascara streaked down her cheeks. Her sobs had turned into whispers. And her final words before abruptly ending the stream echoed like a warning. "If Doug won't tell the truth, then I will." That single sentence sent shockwaves through the fanbase. Because if Jackie was ready to speak, then maybe Doug's silence wasn't protecting her at all. Maybe it was protecting himself. The meltdown didn't end when Jackie hit end live. It only spread further. Clips of her broken voice became late-night punchlines, while fan edits turned her sobbing into sympathy reels. In the court of public opinion, Jackie was no longer the feared Basketball Wives. She was the betrayed wife. Vulnerable, fragile, and finally human. But vulnerability comes with a cost. And as Jackie threatened to break her silence, the world waited to hear the one thing Doug refused to say. Because if Jackie really exposed everything she knew, the entire Christie legacy could collapse in one live stream. When the live stream ended, Jackie may have hoped the storm would quiet. Instead, it only grew louder. Within days, whispers turned into headlines. Sponsors who once proudly attached their brands to Jackie's name began to distance themselves. The beauty endorsements, the lifestyle partnerships, the public speaking invites. One by one, they vanished without explanation. A source close to one major company told Page Hollywood, "We don't want to be part of this circus. Jackie's image is unstable right now. It's too risky." For a woman who spent decades carefully curating her reputation, it was devastating. She wasn't just losing deals, she was losing the image of control that had once defined her. But the betrayals cut closer than the boardroom. Inside her own family, silence spread like poison. Her daughter, the same one rumored to have confronted her first, refused to release any statement of support. Relatives who once stood proudly at vow renewals now turned away, declining interviews and hiding behind no comment. It was as if Jackie had become untouchable, radioactive in her own bloodline. And then there was Doug, the man at the center of it all, the man whose silence had once looked like loyalty. Now, it looked like abandonment. He appeared only in passing, spotted leaving gyms, sliding into cars, dodging paparazzi with his head down. Not a word, not a denial, not even a defense. Each time the cameras caught him walking away in silence, the mystery deepened. Was he protecting Jackie from more humiliation, or was he hiding his own truth? Social media had its verdict. Hashtags like non-fake marriage and Doug knows began trending. Fan forums debated whether Doug's refusal to speak was calculated, a silent manipulation that kept Jackie spiraling while he remained untouchable. The media seized the narrative. Talk shows, gossip blogs, and podcasts painted Jackie as the woman who built an empire on a lie. Clips of her meltdown were played alongside footage of her old Basketball Wives feuds. The contrast brutal. She spent years tearing others down to protect her fairy tale. One commentator said, "Now the fairy tale has burned to the ground, and she's the one standing in the ashes." For Jackie, the empire she built was collapsing piece by piece. The endorsements were gone. The family unity was shattered. The marriage itself, The centerpiece of her entire public persona now sat under a cloud of doubt so heavy, not even her tears could wash it away. And Doug's silence made it worse. Because as long as he refused to speak, every unanswered question became another dagger. By the end of the week, Jackie was no longer the feared matriarch of basketball wives. She was the cautionary tale, the headline, the meme. And yet, through all the chaos, one question lingered like smoke in the air. If Doug finally broke his silence, what else might come crumbling down? Late one Friday night, a recording began to circulate online. It wasn't polished. It wasn't meant for the world. It was a voicemail. Raw, muffled, but unmistakably real. And in it, Doug Christie spoke words that changed everything. I can't undo what happened back then. I was already married. It was complicated. Jackie didn't need to know all that. The clip was less than 30 seconds long, but it detonated like dynamite. By morning, hashtags exploded again. Different marriage. Doug exposed. Void vows. For years, fans had joked that Doug's silence held secrets. Now, they weren't laughing.